Aloha everybody, this is Sahara Sun, and today I'm making a video to talk about the frequently asked questions I get regarding Lyme disease. It seems about every week I have someone contacting me who has a friend, a loved one, who has been recently diagnosed with Lyme disease, or they think they might have it, and they want my advice. Because I've been through the journey of Lyme disease for 27 years now. It's difficult for me to talk about. I don't like to go through all of the horrible things that I experienced and have to share it with people. It often leaves me having to process a lot of PTSD over the next few days after I've had a conversation with someone about Lyme disease. And yet at the same time I want to help. I know that you're home alone. Your loved ones don't know quite what to do. The amount of suffering that you have is so exponentially huge, and yet it's invisible to people around you. And there's such a need of to feel that you're not alone, that you're not crazy, that there's a solution, that there's hope, that there's help to all the things that you're feeling. And we're in a strange epidemic where it's being overlooked. And one day this will get uncovered. But until then, I am making this video for you, Lyme Warrior, because I know that chances are you don't want to read what I wrote. Oftentimes comprehension and using the visual eyesight is difficult to do and is asking a lot of you. So if you have Lyme and you're grateful that I'm making this video so you can just listen, I invite you to sit back, close your eyes, and just listen to what I'm sharing with you on the top frequently asked questions for Lyme disease. Question number 1. How long did you have Lyme disease? I have experienced Lyme disease for almost 30 years. When I was 16 years of age is when I developed my very first symptom, but it wasn't diagnosed until I was 40 years of age. I was tested 4 times for Lyme disease in that span of years. And because of the technology with cultured bacteria, Borrelia does not culture easily in the lab. So it wasn't until they came out with chromosomal testing of the bacteria that I was able to finally get a definitive confirmed answer that I had Lyme disease with about 4 different co-infections that were pretty extreme. So I'm looking down at my notes because I want to make sure I answer everything that is here for the article. What I have found out with this testing is that you can do this at home now, which is amazing. They weren't able to do that back. That was only 5 years ago that they didn't offer the home kits. So if you think you have Lyme disease, if you have someone who thinks they might have it and you're not sure what kind of doctor to go to, and you don't want to pay the Lyme literate medical doctor quite just yet, I would really recommend that you go to the iGenex website, which is in, the links are there in my article, the frequently asked questions for Lyme disease. So go to the website, you can order a test kit and bring it home. At the time when I did the test, it was $800. I'm not quite sure what the price is now, and I will tell you it is worth it. It is very, very worth it to spend the money to find out whether or not you have Lyme disease or not. One thing that I mentioned in my article is that once you have Lyme disease, you have it. It goes dormant, just like tuberculosis or syphilis, and waits for your immune system to get depressed, waits for your body to get stressed out, waits for emotional upheaval that causes that immune suppression, and before you know it, you've relapsed again, or you've had some weird symptom that isn't connected somehow, but it is, to this illness. So something to think about and really accept in yourself is that this is a massive lifestyle change, the equivalent of someone getting into a car wreck and becoming paralyzed. You can physically see that they've been damaged and they're forever changed, and they have to learn a whole new way to adapt and live in the world. The same goes for this neurological condition that we have. We have to learn how to readapt and support our body, because the mainstream world does not support the healing for Lyme disease. It's the complete opposite of what we need. So all these things need to be taken into consideration. Number 2, did people not believe you too? That's usually a very big question I get when I speak to people who have Lyme disease. Most people are really trying to find some way of validating that they're not crazy, because even if people don't say anything to your face, you see it in their emotions, you see it in their body language. The subtle tones in their voices kind of imply they're wondering about you and whether you're actually legit in this, because they can't see anything. So yes, the answer is yes. There's a lot of people who do not believe me. There's a lot of people who I lost friendships with. I have some family members who won't speak to me as a piece of the puzzle, because I'd been sick for so long and never took the time to understand how sick I really was or what was really going on with me, and instead judged and shunned and disowned. So that happens pretty much to everyone I've ever known who has Lyme disease across the board. And if you have a family who is supportive and friends who are supportive, oh my goodness, hold on to them like they are the biggest treasures you've ever had in your life, because they will stick by you. The ones who stick by you are invaluable, absolutely invaluable to you getting through this. One thing I write in my blog about this is that in my early 20s, I was having a second relapse, and I had a million tests: spinal tap, MRI, barium swallows, CAT scans, you name it. I pretty much had a test done for it. And I came upon a letter that the infection specialist wrote to my father saying, "We've exhausted all medical testing. The next step is to have a psychiatric evaluation." And when I saw that, I immediately knew that he was wrong. I immediately was like, I'm not crazy. I know I'm not crazy. But what happened is I shut down. I completely buried it. I went silent. I said, I will never talk about this again. And I started to push myself. I pushed my body. I pushed my body through 2 different graduate school programs, through getting through half of medical school, and working really hard. I was a terrible workaholic, and I ignored all the symptoms. And my body would come crashing down, and things would fall apart, and then I'd build them back up again, and then I would act like I didn't want to act like it existed. It was just, let's move forward. So when people don't believe you, it's a very tricky place psychologically, because it causes us to ignore the things that we really need to pay attention to. And so be very mindful of that within your own psychological awareness. The very common phrase I got all the time was, well, you look good. And I have 2 photos side by side in this article if you want to scroll down and take a look at it. A picture of me with Lyme disease and a picture of me when I'm in remission. And it's pretty telling the difference that's there when you see it. But the comment, well, you look good, used to piss me off. I would get so angry and upset because I translated that and interpreted it that I wasn't being understood, and that people were not believing me, that inside myself I was in living hell. And then I realized that the anger wasn't serving me. And so I decided to combat it with humor. And so they would say to me, well, you look good. And I would say, oh, well, you should see me when I'm well. Yeah. But it helped me inside myself just deflect it back and not have to worry so much about what people were thinking. Question number 3. What were your symptoms? Now, this is the part I really don't like talking about. So I have listed this in the frequently asked questions for Lyme disease. I have a very long list of my symptoms so that you can see and compare some of the things that you might have experienced. I don't mean to overwhelm you. It's a very long list of symptoms. And When you start to put together all the dots of the symptoms and connecting them back to Lyme disease, you really realize that this bacteria creates an inflammatory response in the nervous system that affects your central motor your central nervous system, as well as your peripheral nervous system, which means voluntary and involuntary control. So not only are your muscles and your ability to move and produce energy affected, but so are your hormones, the chemical balancing of your brain, your blood pressure is affected, your heart rate can be affected, digestion can be affected, the menstrual cycle can be affected. There's a very long capacity for this bacteria to affect the body because the nervous system is everywhere, impacting every part of our body. It is what makes us be able to move in this tangible reality. So I'm just going to list them. I'm not going to explain the symptoms, and if you really want to look some more, you can look it up on my website. So the symptoms I had were, the very first symptom I got was basically the inability to move my legs. This was when I was 16 years of age. I woke up one morning and I couldn't feel my legs. It wasn't that they were paralyzed, I just couldn't get them to move in the way that I wanted them to. And this went on for 3 weeks, lots of tests trying to figure it out. And at the end of 3 weeks, I woke up one morning and I just knew I was better. And I moved on with life, chucking it up to being some weird, crazy virus. And I moved on with my life. But then I kept getting sick in all these weird ways. And so these are the symptoms I've experienced over the course of almost 30 years, connected to Lyme disease. The symptoms vary in multitude and what I was getting at each time. Sometimes it was just one symptom, sometimes it was all of them. And they vary in degrees of in severity and duration. So the first symptom was the legs not working, and it was always been the chronic gauge of whether or not I was getting sick or not, is whether or not my legs were getting impacted over the years. I experienced low blood pressure, usually about 85 over 45, which caused all kinds of problems with orthostatic hypotension, atrial fib, tachycardia. I had severe insomnia for many years. I struggled with anxiety, depression, ADD, OCD, paranoia, hallucinations. I wrote fatigue, and I feel like that's putting it lightly. There needs to be another level of fatigue, and I would say bedridden is accurate. Unless you have experienced Lyme disease, there is no way to convey the level of sheer strength it takes to function. I'd say I feel like I have a wet wool blanket on me and I can't get out from underneath it. And just to get to the bathroom took every ounce of strength I had in me. And I'm sure it does for you too. Strange fevers. This is a very big one for me. Over 20 years of strange fevers. Fevers that would climb to 105 degrees with no one knowing why. Fevers that came out of nowhere. Fevers that would make me hallucinate. Fevers that brought me to my knees in pain from this illness. I learned a lot of different things about how you can support your body during fevers. When you have them, it's really actually a good thing because it's your immune system trying to do what it's supposed to do. But to have that many fevers all at once is very difficult. I've experienced hormonal disruptions, rare complicated tumors where I've had to have 3 different surgeries for them, pituitary imbalances, enlarged organs, toxic liver, mold exposure, cognitive issues. I'm going to say a little bit more about this. Visual disturbances, hearing sensitivity, inability to read, impaired thinking. Visual disturbances, proprioception issues. I would run and hit the walls all the time, hit my head on things. I would think a wall was there and I'd grab to reach it and it wouldn't be there and I would fall. Short-term memory, often I couldn't even remember if I'd eaten. If I even made anything, did I? I don't know. That happened all the time. And slowed speech and ability to get my thoughts out. Other symptoms were temperature. Nothing could warm me. Nothing. I was constantly, perpetually cold. Digestive issues. I had a period of time where I was literally shitting my own food. It looked like I never even digested any of it. It was pretty crazy. And then inflammation, where all the joint pain, fascia pain, abdominal pain, strange headaches, burning in the back of my occiput like crazy. My lymphatic system was also a mess, so that caused me to swell. It almost seemed like I blew up overnight with fluid. And I wrote down enough already. I don't really like talking about this, but it is important for you to know all the different things. And if you were to ever work with me in a session, we would really go through and look at all the different symptoms so that you can really kind of have a good roadmap of what's going on for you, so that when you are experiencing them, you're not in fear. What's this now? Like, you can actually tangibly be like, oh, I see. This is why the neurotoxin is doing this thing, and there's a way for you to be guided to help you manage the emotional scariness that's going on in your body. Question number 4, what did I do for treatment? Now, this is a very complicated question, and I'm very cautious about answering it because most people are looking for the magic pill. The one thing that's going to knock it out of the ballpark, be done, move on with your life like it didn't happen. And I hate to tell you, you're not going to find it. You're not going to find it. So stop looking for it. Stop looking for that one thing that's going to make it all better, and look for the direction that you feel will be the most supportive for you to navigate your life. If you are a mother with 2 children and your husband has Lyme disease, and he is the primary breadwinner who brings in the money, and he's sick, and you are financially in despair, you might have to decide about knocking him down to a part-time job, hoping he can make it through and get treatment along the way where he's able to do it over the course of maybe 2 years. Or you do it very quickly and you go to a clinic that has more of an intense treatment, and you're there for the course of 2 months. So everybody's case is unique in what they need. Somebody might say, I don't want to go through the intensity. I don't want to. It's too much. It scares me. I'd rather take the slower antibiotic herbal route than going to some of these specialty clinics around the planet that really put you into serious treatment. And so the place that I chose was called Sahara Integrative Medicine, which is in Reno, Nevada. Just checking my notes. Which is in Reno, Nevada. And I was there for 2 months. I chose this treatment because it was holistic. I knew that they didn't use antibiotics in most cases. And when I did the number crunching, I realized that the 2-year treatment program that I could have chosen up in Woodinville, Washington, which I cannot remember the name of it at the moment, was going to be financially the same cost. And I felt like my life was falling apart at such a fast pace. I didn't know that I was going to be able to maintain myself financially if I went through 2 years of the work. I did not have a place to live for free. I didn't have a lot of support in terms of somebody really sticking by my side to help me through it. And so I decided to go for the 2 months of treatment. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It was the most intense thing I've ever done in my life. And it is now my gauge of where I find my strength. Often something will happen and I'll say, I can get through that Lyme treatment. I can get through this. This is nothing. So you will find that it is a very challenging treatment, but I do feel that it was the smartest decision I ever made in my life. Whatever direction you go, some people find that the antibiotics help them, and some people it makes them way worse. And I think it depends on several factors. It depends on the level of the infection in the body. It depends on your constitution and how you process. It depends on how toxic you are. If you don't take in a whole lot of processed food, the geographic location you're in does not have a ton of chemtrails, it doesn't have a lot of water pollution, it doesn't have a lot of air pollution, you might handle those antibiotics okay. But if your body is toxic in any way, which most people are, especially in the United States, um, antibiotics have a very large chance of making your symptoms a lot worse because of the toxic overload that starts to happen to the body. That's what happened to me. It almost killed me taking the antibiotics. Um, and it's a way. I'm not saying it's the wrong way. It's a way. And some people it works and some people it doesn't. And you just have to trust and try what you can. So that's the first thing. There's a couple other treatments that I really liked. I still do actually as part of my maintenance. So even though I am in remission, I feel better than I ever have my entire adult life. I know that it's sleeping. I can feel that it's asleep. And so I every week am continuing to maintain myself through detox, detox, detox. I cannot stress that enough. Detox yourself. So some of the ways that are really, really helpful is lymphatic massage, lymphatic brushing, colonics, coffee enemas. Both of those I was resistant to. I didn't want something going up my bum. But after I finally, when you get sick enough, you're willing to try anything. And I really, really found both of those. A colonic, which someone actually administers for you, or you can get an at-home kit called a Kalima board. They are incredibly helpful at pulling out toxins, particularly from your liver. The coffee enema is also very good as a weekly maintenance kind of thing. It also helps pull toxins out of your liver as well as clear out impurities in your digestive system to help you absorb better. The two treatments that are holistic that I really loved was the 10 pass blood ozone. 10 pass blood ozone. These are all on my list online. This one I really actually think healed my legs. That was always the gauge and my problem, and I received, I think I've received 14 treatments now of the 10 pass blood ozone, and has really changed a lot for me and my ability to do physical activity. It's repaired neurological damage that was having a hard time repairing itself on its own. And then last, but certainly not least, well, actually I have two more, is 5-element acupuncture. So I am a 5-element acupuncturist, and I was a patient before I became a practitioner. And when I first started going to see a 5-element acupuncturist, I was so sick, it took 2 people to get me up the steps to get into his office. And it really actually got me out of being bedridden and got me into swimming laps again, walking again, living again. Very profound. Traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM acupuncture, is very helpful for symptom management, but people who have really deep-seated chronic illness or traumas, it's not going to be able to tap into the deeper levels of our soul and our psyche and those emotions that can run things. So 5-element acupuncture has been huge for me personally as a patient, and I love offering it to people because it is so incredibly effective of helping people transition out of being in a sick state and moving into more of a healing state versus just maintaining. The other two things that have to do really with the detoxifying system is the detox foot bath and your diet. Both of them are huge. Question number 5. How did you juggle finances, modern lifestyle, and surviving? Well, to be honest, I didn't. I didn't do it very well. How can you? Your brain isn't working. The cognitive functioning is impaired. Trying to read bills and look at numbers and dates and accounts is absolutely mind-boggling to someone with Lyme disease. and then trying to keep up with the numbers and budget and project yourself ahead in terms of what's going to happen to you, it is so very difficult. So if you can, get help. Whatever help that looks like, get it. Get help, ask for support, find somebody to look at the numbers with you. Get help with your bills. Get help with your living situation. Ask for help. Even if people don't understand, you've got to tell them, I need help. Because if they love you and they care about you, they'll still give it to you even if they don't understand. This is the tricky piece that I have learned from... They were playing going overhead. This is the tricky piece that I have learned and how people can support you is that they're not aware of what I call neurological pollution. Oftentimes people with Lyme disease are not aware about neurological pollution. I tried to look this up and see if actually somebody else coined this term, but I didn't find anything. This is something I have termed it for years, which is neurological pollution to someone with Lyme disease means loud noises, bright light, raised voices, loud TVs, commercials blaring, a cold house, a lack of awareness to our fatigue. So if they know we've had a big day and then they still want us to help fold the laundry, or they want to come in and talk to us about the big day instead of giving us the space to recover from it. So they don't understand how to say that's enough, I don't want to wear her out anymore. They don't understand that talking is exhausting. That's a neurological pollution. People who use chemicals to clean the laundry, use chemicals to clean their home, or use non-organic food loaded with pesticides. These are all ways in which the neurological pollution can really impact someone with Lyme disease. And even though they often have support, people who have support for the Lyme disease, often it's not the kind that they really need. So somebody might say, well, I'm going to give you a bed and a roof over your head. That's all I can do. And then you're stuck living in this house under their ways, inundated under all of this stimulation to your nervous system. And then you don't feel like you've rested. And then you feel like you need to get out of it. And you've got to go get support somewhere else. And it just sends you down onto a huge rabbit hole of crazy. So I've heard so many people with that teetering on homelessness because they can't find a place to retreat. Number 6, what supplements did you take? So this is probably one of the bigger questions I get because everybody wants to know the magic pill. And what I would like to say is that this is more of a conversation that's better with an online consultation with myself, so that we can talk about what you are taking, what would be good for you to take, because what I took doesn't necessarily mean it's what you need to take. I do have some tips and I have some offerings in that, but I have taken anything from Chinese herbs, Western herbs, supplements, homeopathic, CBD, THC, pharmaceuticals. I was taking up to 56 pills 3 times a day at one point in time. So it's a huge conversation. And it's also a slippery slope because that was way too many pills for me to be taking. And so I've since also learned that IV therapy is my favorite way of getting medication in when you have Lyme disease. So you're not exhausting your organs and trying to process and break it down. It's just brought right back in. Question number 7. What caused you to relapse the most or make you have a flare? I will say hands down, no questions, emotions. This is a very, very insidious illness that feeds itself on fear. It feeds itself on anxiety. It feeds itself on recounting on the nervous system operating at a faster pace, which creates a more anaerobic environment, a more acidic environment, and then that's what they want. So they want you to be scared. They want you to be nervous, the bacteria I'm speaking of. And so emotions still are the number one thing that affect my health. The moment that I'm compromising myself, the moment I'm dealing with something that I'm not processing you can guarantee I'm going to have my health affected. And this is actually an area that I can really help you in. This is an area that requires really an unraveling of all of your belief systems so that you can shift your perspective about how you're going to navigate this journey. And it takes a lot of conscious accountability, a lot of reflection, a lot of really looking at how you're operating and how your body is physically feeling. Instead of saying, oh, I don't like it, where's a pill or a solution to make it go away? We say, what is that about? What is it trying to tell me? So this is where I can come in to help you as well. So those are the top 7 frequently asked questions that I get when someone contacts me about Lyme disease. If you have any other questions or you have any comments, please leave them at the bottom of this video. I have chats on my website. I also have other articles and blog posts made out for the healing warriors out there who are trying to navigate something that feels very scary and very lonely. And I am here to help you. So thank you so much for listening. This was the longest video I think I've ever made. And I hope that this was helpful for you, that I made this video so that you didn't have to read what I wrote. And there's a lot of links that I have in the article, as well as more insight coming. So thank you so much. You have, may your journey become your greatest teacher. May it help you to awaken your most authentic self. May you accept and surrender the circumstances that you are in. And may you find the breadcrumb trail to your healing. Love you. Bless you. Aloha.